Greetings, everyone. I am Dr. McClinton, and I want to welcome you to Navigating Online Well Part 2. We will open in prayer. I've introduced myself. The rest of the team will introduce themselves, and then I will do the first part of this by talking about the research process, and that will be followed by the next person that will talk, and they will introduce themselves and they will talk about that wonderful marriage of Canvas and Word and documents and the essential nature of that. And finally, that will be finished by a discussion about moving from prompt to paper. Okay? So that's the plan. So, dear God, we do thank you for the day. This is the day that the Lord's made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it, Father. We thank you. We have the opportunity, God, to speak into the lives of new students, oh God, and pray that the information that is needed to help them navigate this new major decision, Father God, would just be fruitful, God, and give them the insight and understanding that they need, uh, and just a belief that they have everything in the process that they're going to need to get the support. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Alrighty, so to get things started, one of the things that's really, really important is whatever folks do in LBC as students, they are going to write. I'm going to pause because I said that the team would introduce themselves. Chantel?
Yes, hi. My name is Chantel Patchke. I am the ESL specialist at the Ally Center. I also teach a variety of courses on campus and in the online space. So I am glad you're here. I hope you enjoy the recording from my colleagues.
Hello there, my name is Mariah Burkert, as well as being a part of the Ally Center team, where I especially specialize in helping people with writing. But any class that you come in with, we take a stab at it. Managing time, figuring out assignment prompts, we love all of it. In addition to that, I am also a professor, and so I also teach both online and on campus, again, primarily writing classes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hannah Khan, and I serve as a student support specialist in the Ally Center. And so I also meet with students to support them with writing, research, time management, whatever we can do to support your academic success. That is what we are here for. And in addition to that role, I also serve as an adjunct professor. And so I teach both on campus and online courses. And I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming out.
Alrighty, so let me go back into what I was saying. And what I was saying is that regardless of what you do in college, you will find that the major thing you're going to find yourself doing is writing. Okay. Some people say, I really don't like writing. This is a time when at least you need to consider dating writing, because if not, college is going to be a very, very interesting place for you to be. And one of the reasons sometimes writing is so difficult because folks don't have a process, and writing is very much about thinking. And if you can think of things like writing as having a series of ingredients that are part of a recipe, then that will facilitate processes as well. So, what I want to do today is to take you through, expose you to a process, expose you to some resources that can help you in that process. Okay, so the first thing, I'm going to share my screen. And in sharing my screen, the first thing I would like to go through is this research process. This is what they call a sway presentation, and it's kind of like a PowerPoint in a way. maybe more colorful because it seems like the whole atmosphere is um, doused in color. But it's going to walk you through the process. It's something too that you can actually go through any Ally Center and look at again as well. So I'm just going to go step by step in terms of this process. So invariably, your professor is going to tell you that you need to write something. All right. Initially, it may begin with a small assignment. It may begin with a paragraph about something, and you'll notice that that paragraph will then become a page about something. And before that subterm is over, especially if it's like a LAN 100 or even an FAS 100, it's very possible um, that you will end up having to produce a paper and you're going to have to do some research. Now, the difference between doing research, you writing a paper, doing research, and you doing a paper, getting scholarly sources, is that the research that you do is not tied to your personal opinion. It is your ability to go to the library, have a topic in mind, and we'll talk more about that process, and be able to come up with a thesis statement and begin to arrive at what it is that you think that you want to write about. Now, when I say come up with a thesis statement, I'm getting a little ahead of myself because you have to really look at a topic, research that topic to see what's trending. Okay, what you write about is what's trending, and oftentimes people know what they want to write about before they even research what's trending, and then they go and try to find materials to meet those needs. And that's challenging because oftentimes what is trending is not in keeping with their ideas, which at that point, even though it may be good information, it's their opinion. Then they may have read it from someplace else, but again, when we start talking about academic writing, it really is important that you be able to go to the library with your subject, be able to research so you know what's trending. Once you know what's trending, then you can make a claim that we call the thesis statement. So it says begin your research early, read your professor's requirements carefully, and consult with a librarian early to avoid dead ends. The second thing, I talked a little bit about topic. If you have a choice, pick one that's interesting to you. Okay. Sometimes, and it's good and it's bad. Sometimes your professor will give you a topic, and folks will celebrate the fact that they at least know the direction that they want to move in. Other times, uh, you have to pick your own topic, and sometimes that's frustrating because people don't know exactly what it is that they want to do, you know? And so then it's kind of like, I wish somebody would tell me. So again, however it comes, if they tell you, fine. If they don't, that's fine too, because you can always go to the library and normally you're going to get some kind of question about or some type of exercises that just tells you to pick 10 topics that interest you. And generally you'll be able to find something. But the point is if you um, don't have one that you're given, this here, I'm going to click on this and you can click on this as well. It will just show you how, if you're stuck on what to write about, how you can go here, and this is the topic selection helper. And literally, it will just take you through a bunch of different topics. And notice that it will go from A to Z. All right. So if you're stuck on a topic, this is certainly a way to flesh out a possible topic. All right. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you, that there is a way that you can actually think about the topic. The next thing, excuse me, and going back here. So this first one, as I said, is select a contemporary topic. But then there's also the ability to click here and you can select a pro or con topic. And this is oftentimes good from the vantage point of thinking. And when I say thinking, a lot of times you want to write a paper and you're asked to pick a side that you wouldn't normally pick, like you're asked to go with the con side, and the con side would be the side that you wouldn't generally support. But by having this website that has pro and con, you begin to understand some of the arguments that you could make, even that you, if you don't agree with them, all right. But then you're able to, like I said, see that. But then you're also able then to see what the pro arguments too. This will come be particularly helpful, especially if you are in Land 101, because at a certain point you'll be asked to do a flip essay. And in the flip essay, you have to present a, you have to be pro for something that you're normally con. All right. And then you flip it. And as the expression goes, you get to tell us how you really feel. And so this, again, is just another tool that can help you think through the different sides. And oftentimes they're looking at different journals and different information, even to arrive at their initial information. So that could help you from the vantage point of finding resources. So again, just another tool there that can support that process for you. All right, I'm going to leave this and go back to this initial sway. Next thing I want to point out is it says do some preliminary reading on that topic and note important concepts and terms. All right. And so again, we're notice that we're very much in the discovery phase. Okay. We're just not coming off the top of our head and just rushing into it just to get some things down on paper. Notice the methodical nature of this process. All right. And so they said do reading. So I gave you initially 2 places that you could go, but then here are a, a few other places to go. And so here they have this um, place called Credo Reference. And this is cool because it gives you databases. And what are databases? Databases are places that have actually a repository of information. Okay. And so, for example, if you go to our library, you'll see databases. And if you do the drop down menu, you'll see psychology and theology and, business. And what a database does is it puts that particular topic in a file cabinet. And everything in that file cabinet, okay, speaks to your topic. Whereas when you do a regular search, a worldwide search, you are subject to everything out there. And sometimes it's just because the keyword that you used in what you were looking for is a keyword in the title of what comes up. So you can be overwhelmed with sources. So this becomes just a way, again, of seeing that if I really want to downsize things. I could use something like this Credo reference, or I can actually use the library as well. So there's libraries that can just give you a big search and you can filter, or there's the use of databases that you'll see in our library. And this is just another kind of connecting point as it relates to databases. All right. So they give you that. I'm not going to go on every single one of them. Here's one that deals with issues and controversies. Okay. So once again, oftentimes you'll be instructed to do a debatable topic. Okay. Oftentimes when people think about writing, they'll say, well, I want to write about water. Well, what is it that you want to write about water? Water is clear. Okay. Water is clear is not necessarily a debatable topic. I mean, there may be times when it's not clear, but that's not good. Okay. So when you think about something, you want to think about something that's got a little kick to it, a little spice added to it, a little controversy around it, something that's debatable. And in this particular website here, it will take you, it will give you some issues and controversy. So once again, this is really just about exposing you to resources. All right, and then there are Bible and theology reference books. So the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, the um, Evangelical Dictionary of Theology, okay, the library search box. So these are all these places that you can go to begin to get information on the topic that you may have an interest in, okay? Beyond that, it says focus your topic so that it's specific and manageable. What is it that you want to write about this topic? What questions do you want to answer? For example, for the topic community policing, you may want to focus on the benefits of community policing. Your research question could be, what are the benefits of community policing for people of that community? Now, here's the thing. Um, you want to arrive when you start, because what we're starting to do is we've got this big topic and we want to kind of narrow the topic, right? So you want to go from having kind of a whole lot of thoughts about that topic. You've done some research, so now you've gotten a greater level of specificity. And you look at, for example, like if you talk about community policing, you ask that research question: what are the benefits? Now, the fact of the matter is, you can do a paper that extols the benefits of community policing, but the first thing is, prior to that, you're going to have to make a claim about community policing. So you're going to have to say, because what happens sometimes is someone will begin to write and they will form a question, and then they will say something like, so the question I'm going to answer is, okay, but the distinction is you want to move from question to making a claim. And if I move from question to making the claim, I would say something to the effect that community policing is beneficial, as evidenced by one, two, three. So I'm no longer asking a question. A question is a good place to start. But when I finally settle down and I'm going to write, I'm extolling the benefits of community policing. So understand that when you go through that process, because there are classes that will actually give you the ability to write down 10 questions, and then they'll tell you to pick a topic. But recognize that writing down those 10 questions and picking two doesn't lead you to your thesis statement yet. Okay, it just says something that you may be trying to answer. And as you do a little bit more research, you will see what's available in that area, so that once again, what I call it, what's trending, you'll be able to make a claim. So just want you to be clear on that process. They talk about forming a hypothesis, and this is your educated guess that answers the specific research question based on your preliminary reading. Now, I know when I teach, I don't talk a lot about formulating a hypothesis. I talk a lot about um, doing a thesis statement. Ladies, when you guys are teaching writing, because we can interact, do you talk a lot about hypothesis, or do you just go in and really just talk about the thesis statement?
I usually spend just a little bit of time talking about a research question, just in terms of, you don't want to just pick a topic that you already know everything in your head about. You want to think about something that you have some genuine curiosity about, so that it can spur you on to doing some good research to develop your thesis statement. I don't think I've ever used the word hypothesis whenever I teach.
Okay. Hannah, how about you?
I would echo a lot of what Mariah said, especially in any type of LAN 100 or 101 course. I really focus on that. In my literature course, my approach to thesis statements is a little different because it's more interpretive based on a specific story or text. But when it comes to the composition courses, I do definitely focus on inquiry and curiosity, and not just assuming, even if you do know a lot about a topic, not assuming that you know everything there is to know about it, and wanting to show that you've done your research and have come to a well-rounded, supported position, and that you've also done your homework and looked at the other side and included a counter argument to note that you've considered other perspectives and have still landed where you have.
Okay, good. And that's good to know, because again, this is not bad advice. All right. It's just that as we look at how we formally teach writing in LBC, that this is not necessarily an in your face step. Like, did you form your hypothesis? But again, even if we go back to that notion of community policing, there may be an educated guess that you make about community policing, meaning you may say, you know what, I think community policing could be beneficial. That's a hypothesis. You're just making, you're beginning to you're beginning to give like a bit of a reason to your research question to begin with. You're kind of guessing at, it could be good. But then as you look at what you're reading and what's available, you may then do a hard stop at, okay, community policing is beneficial as evidenced by. So again, this is just, again, almost kind of getting you, as you're thinking about thinking, it's getting you to think more about the what. All right. So I'm going to move from here. You can use books and ebooks. Okay, it's so it says for books and ebooks, you can search the library search box. So when you're looking in a library search box, you will see it makes a designation. Like if you just go and do a straight search, okay, it's going to bring everything, but then you'll be able to filter it. You'll be able to check off a box to say, you know, the check the check box will be the things that you want to actually highlight. So if it's ebooks, you can do that. If it's books, you can do that. A lot of times when a lot of research is done, a great emphasis is placed on journal articles. And the reason in interest is placed on journals because journals enable you, at, as I say, to hit it and quit it. All right. Now, with a book, there might be a chapter in it, but you're not going to sit and read 6 books for a 5-page paper. Okay. And so there is a level of efficiency that you have to develop even with your sources, okay, because you don't have, you know, into perpetuity to gather this information. And so as I said, you want to be able to gather it expeditiously and efficiently. All right, you can check out video tutorials on the library, okay, ebooks. The other thing too is you want to be aware of is that now as we expand in what's out there on the internet. Now podcasts are all the rave. And so there's different things that you could use now, YouTube videos. As long as there's a standard that your sources have to meet, like your professor, he or she will tell you about peer review articles that they want, but then they'll give you things that are your choice. And then you will learn about the standards, like what are some minimum kinds of things that need to be apparent, whether it's a website or a podcast. Okay, it's like there's a framework. But what I am saying is the world has expanded from you just writing, just using peer reviewed journals. And this is my point here, where you can search for journals, magazines, and newspaper articles. And it's funny because I personally, I don't even think about the newspaper anymore. When I think about research, like online, I'll read the New York Times sometimes or the Wall Street Journal. Um, but I don't, because, and I guess they do still sell them. But when I sit down to research, I'm not thinking about the newspaper. It almost seems like something archaic, but they do still exist. And so they let you know that you've got newspaper articles. All right, you've got journals. And as I said, journals are good because a lot of them are peer review, which means a jury of the peers got together and they gave their feedback. Some of them said, I concur with everything this writer has said. Some of them may have said, I don't concur. I agree with this, but I disagree with that. And so, what it is it gives you confidence that someone is not running off willy nilly, just putting together a journal and having their opinion. Because to be honest, when I did my research years ago, and the topic was really, really a new topic, you found like alternative um, websites coming out with kind of the look of being official and kind of having like a body of evidence, but it was kind of like a lot of pseudoscience and it looked official, but it's like those were sources that it's like you're talking to the choir and you're very one-sided. So ultimately I was able to kind of say, that's not going to work. I mean, I had to really dig to try to get what I needed to defend what I was trying to say. So again, it's just letting you know that you do have these choices. Okay. Um, there's something called the academic search premiere that you would find in the library. All right. And they said, this is a great, and I'll click on this because once again, this is just another database. This is just another place for you to find sources. All right. And what you will do is you'll end up having to put something in, a title in, or you may have some keywords, and then it will do your search for you. Okay. So it's another way, and we're actually inside of a specific database here. All right. But again, just want you to have an awareness level of the different tools that can be available when you're doing what you're doing. And notice too that in this particular presentation, all these places are embedded. So all you literally have to do is click on them. All right. Next, and we've talked about it a little bit already, you're crafting a thesis. And the thesis, the easiest way I can say it is you are going to court and you're making a claim. Okay? That's what you're doing. Okay? So when I talked to you before and I said water is clear. All right, that's a claim that you could make, but it's not a debatable claim, Again, unless something is wrong with the water, you would expect that the water would be clear. Okay? Or like saying the ocean is blue or green. I mean, again, those are things that you're not going to write a dissertation about, you know? But if you want to get more, if you want to have a certain level of depth, and you say that sometimes the fish in the ocean turn such and such a color as a result of such and such and such, you're making a claim that there's something happening inside the ocean to the fishes because of one, two, three. All right, so that's debatable. Like for example, we think that when we see salmon, that salmon's color is pink. It's not. Salmon is pink because of all those shrimp that they eat for their diet. Okay. I used to think that salmon was actually pink, but that pinkness, again, is from their diet of shrimp. Okay. So they like seafood. Okay. So the point is that you just want to think what is debatable? Okay. What claim are you making? What are you going to prove? And oftentimes, this is where people get stuck because they don't have anything to put a hook on. Okay. So if someone say, "Well, I want to do something theological," okay, what do you want to do? Jesus is Lord. That's true. Okay, but Jesus is Lord based on what? Like you're gonna have to back that up with something. So again, you just want to make sure that when you arrive at that thesis, it's like you're going to court and you're saying, "Ladies and gentlemen of the court, this is my topic and I'm going to prove it based on 1, 2, and 3." So I can't underscore enough the ability to craft that thesis and craft it well. If you need help, make sure you go to the Ally Center, okay, in particular to get help, because if you're able to craft it, it's then going to give you the hooks, as it were, for you to really build something on. And then I think the rest of it is now, okay, what are you going to put on those hooks to support what you just said? But it's just an integral and critical part of your writing process. You're going to support the thesis, and we talk about having at least 3 things that support the claim that you're making. All right. And so that's pretty much the writing process. But from there, I want to move us then to, are you guys seeing research paper, assignment, start and due dates? All right. So on one level, LBC is very good in Canvas because Canvas tells you exactly what you have to do and when it's due. So if you go into Canvas and you look at the modules, all right, now you can go and you can see like the whole overview and it's nicely laid out, and you can look at week 1 and you'll see assignments and dialogue and quizzes and stuff. I personally like to go into the module. I like the module view because the module shows you every single assignment that's due. Generally, they're in order, so generally the 15th wouldn't come before the 17th, but you'll see like the 15th. If it does, just read the whole thing. But my point is this: there's an order. This is due the 15th, this is due the 17th, this is due the 18th. Not only does it tell you when it's due, but it also tells you the points that are ascribed to it. So oftentimes when you have a paper, there's a final due date. Like if you're in a writing class course per se, there will be a major paper. In LAN 100, there will be one major paper that you finish with, right? In LAN 101, there will actually be one, two, I want to say kind of like two-ish. And the reason I'm saying two-ish is because they've gotten rid of the critical review. All right. So you really are going to have to spend some time with the flip essay, which is less intense than it used to be. And you're going to have to spend some time with the argumentative essay. And normally they have dates, but the point I want to make for you is this: is that if you wanted to kind of get, if your paper was due uh 10 or 11, 13, all right, you would see some different things that you have to do that's inside of the Canvas shell. But if you wanted to like give yourself, if you wanted to be a little bit more proactive and see like what can I be doing over like the next 2 weeks, okay? And you're not locked into this, but if I looked at the next 2 weeks, this is 10/13, and then if I looked at a week from now, that would be 10/20. If I considered another week, that would be 10/27. So if I just wanted a sketch, someone says, why would I do this to myself? If I just wanted a sketch of, you know, what are things I need to be thinking about, what this will literally do is just begin to take you through your process. All right. And so it's telling you in the beginning that you, by Tuesday, the 14th, like by tomorrow, you're understanding an assignment and you're selecting a topic. All right. And they literally go through and they give you practical ways of going back about what it is that you need to go about, like reading through and understanding your assignment. Looking, it's interesting because now they're talking about look at generate generative AI tools. All right, because you can use tools in the formation of your thought processing, not to cut and paste what they just told you in terms of the research portion of it, but as a tool to help you think. All right, it's interesting how that landscape is changing. Um, Choosing and refining your topics. All right. Looking at a specialized online encyclopedia. Okay. Researcher or opposing viewpoints and context. All right. And so, again, you get to see that this is just giving you some steps that you would want to go through. Greetings, is it Latia?
It's Letha, almost.
Letha, okay, close. Hi, welcome aboard. We're just going through. Um, Glad to have you, but we're just going through some different things that it's good to know as a person new to the online space. So, and this right now is the research calculator. And what it does is, even though Canvas gives you time, date and time that something is due, this research calculator, and this is what I will send after the meeting, actually will walk you step by step and give you more information in terms of things you need to attend to. Okay, so we started out by talking about, well, by the 14th, this will be due. By the 15th, you should be thinking about this. By the 17th, you should be thinking about this. All right. By the following week, you should be thinking about this. And again, they just go through and structure all the things that you need to do. If you are a person who says, you don't like to wait till the last minute, and trust me, in Canvas, there are reminders, but you may want to say, I really want to dig a little bit deeper. This research calendar just becomes a great way to dig a little deeper. Okay, so it's a good tool to have. Tells you when a draft is due. Polishing your paper. So again, it's very simple because literally all you have to do, you have this, you put the date, today's date in, and then when your paper is due, and it just walks you through steps that are even more clearly defined than what you would get on Canvas. So I think that's a good thing.
And if I
So
may jump in just briefly, because some classes don't actually have those intermediary steps assigned to you as the student. So there are some classes like LAN 100 and LAN 101, which break it down really into those basic building blocks that you have to submit. But some classes are going to be like, hey, you have a 10-page paper week 7. And that's sort of like, and the week by week, it's just like continue working on your paper, and you're like, haha, well, what do I do? And so this is a really good tool if your class doesn't break down those steps for you.
right, that's a good point, Mariah. Because again, outside of writing, whether it's psychology or religion, okay, they may not have the specificity that a writing class would have. Because a part of that writing class is doing what? It's teaching writing. Your other courses are really not about teaching writing, okay? And it's in LAN 100 and 101, I guess the expression would go, you are learning to write, like taking the cobwebs off, but as you give things back, you are writing to learn. All right. And so it's the inverse of that is true, that they're no longer teaching you are writing because you're showing what you've learned. So this is like just really, really great for those classes that don't lay things out for you. Just it keeps you on your toes. But the other thing too is it points you to different resources. Like the stuff that's in red becomes places like here. this will give you like more information and may take you different places on the web just to give you some thoughts or ideas or other resources that exceed the resources that we give you. Or, here, try a specialized online encyclopedia. So I think that's just really good. All right, so that is that part of it. The next thing that I want to show you is MLA style overview. All right. And once again, this is a PowerPoint that was actually put together by Hannah. And I think it's really, really good because if you are in a writing class and you are arts and sciences, all right, you will have to learn MLA. No, no ifs, ands, and buts about it. You have to know it. And so, what I love about this is this just takes you through the process in 24 short paragraphs. I mean, excuse me, not paragraphs, uh, pages. It just walks you through the formatting, and just talks you to, introduces you to it, talks about the types of citations, okay? Talks to you about how you format the front page, um, talks about in-text citations, what they look like. Because, when you hear, oh, MLA, it's like, oh my gosh, like you start like wanting to pull your hair out. And it's like, honestly, it's really not that deep. Like after you format it, and the formatting, once you understand it, that's to me fairly standard. What goes in the left hand column, what goes in the right hand column on the first page. All right, everything else is your last name, a space, and a page number on the rest of the pages, but that shows up after your first page. So this is the stuff that people are kind of biting their nails like, oh my gosh, like how do I cite an author? It's very easy. It's called AP, author page. And so literally you have here with this plat 40, after you quote it or paraphrase or summarize, you have the plat, who's the author, and page 40 in parentheses. That is literally what we're talking about when we start talking about in-text citations. Now, obviously, you can have two authors, three authors, a corporate author, but she goes through and she talks about just the different instances, okay, of the different ways that it can show up. Um, in addition, citing the Bible is important. You can Students have the choice. They can go and buy the MLA manual. It's not a bad thing to invest in over your 4 years, but when you come in initially, it's overwhelming a lot of times for students. And when they hear something, if they can have kind of a quick way to kind of access the information and get like a basic rundown, this would be that kind of thing. All right. So again, you get how different words as opposed to so and so said. You can say contends, suggests, endorses, reasons, adds, and it makes you just sound very, very fancy and nuanced. Okay, you sound scholarly. But yeah, I could go through all 24 pages. I will not. But what I am saying is it is a great tool, okay, to learn about formatting, learn about how you actually put the um, in-text citations in. And then finally, the thing that, once again, it's like people get really nervous. Oh my gosh, works cited, what am I doing? And this is your works cited page. And this is essentially your final page, right? Notice there's no header like the first page, but it's got your last name and a page number. But a list, generally, it is just a list of the books that you used. And in every writing class, your professor, he or she, should take you to the library on a trip, show you how you can go into the library, find a particular source, do a copy, paste it into your Word document, okay? And essentially, and then there's a couple other steps inside of Word, but we'll show you how to do this works cited page. All right. So what I'm saying is these are not hard kinds of things. I often suggest to folks, just do yourself a favor. If this is new to you, go through this, but then do yourself a favor. Go to the Ally Center. I tell you, the hour that you'll spend is worth the price of admission into college. Okay, because it's something that's going to ground you and undergird you. Okay, so again, I will send this tool, uh, to those who have attended. Um, but it's a good thing. I think too there was even a workshop that she did with it as well. You know, but again, something that the Ally Center really, really tries to do is they try to put tools in place, okay, so that if you can't make a workshop, all right, or you made the workshop, but you don't want to write like everything down that they're saying, because you're going to miss what they're saying, although we are taping this. And so it becomes another place where you can, at your own speed and at your leisure, say, okay, let me go look at that. Let me go look at that document on MLA. Okay, let me look at how this looks here. But you're not rushed. Okay, and I think that's wonderful. So once again, that's a wonderful tool. A final tool that I will introduce you to, and if this is just a workshop, but what you will find is that in the Ally Center, when you actually go, when you click on your, when you look at your Canvas, it'll say Ally Center, and that front page will take you to a page that allows you either to schedule an appointment, or it will take you to, outside of that, you'll look and you'll see different resources. And so they'll talk about writing resources, and they'll talk about um, academic mentoring resources. And one of the tools in the writing resources are videos. And so, and there's, I counted the other day, there's 50 of them now. Okay. So we do the workshops, pretty polished, and we actually publish it. We publish it in our Live Guide section, but we also publish it on YouTube. So this, is a workshop that was done quite some time ago. But again, it talks to students about the writing process. So these are the kinds of tools that are just very, very helpful. They help you become what we call a more efficacious learner, because what you do is, while you're getting the instruction from your instructor, you're also facilitating and taking control of your own learning by looking at the resources that are available. Any questions before I turn it over to my colleagues?
You were asking if I have any questions about learning from the available resources. Since I am an AI.
That was AI. It's just interesting how much of your business AI gets into. Do you have any questions right now? Okay, so I am going to stop my share and turn it over to Mariah.
All right. Hello again, my name is Mariah. Right now I'm going to just walk you through how to get from Canvas to Word and then back again. And then Letha, I know that you're already a pro at this, but you can certainly follow along. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, so starting from just a blank web page, we're going to go to lbc.edu. And I'm going to go into my favorite living space, which is the student portal. This is where we get access to all of the good things. All of the good things as a student are available in the student portal. We have the Ally services right here, links to the library right here, textbooks over here, but we're not worrying about all of those things right now. Right now, we're just focused on Canvas and Word. So right here, I have the link for Canvas. I'm going to go ahead and open that in a new tab. I actually, just the other day, I was working with a student and they typed in Canvas into their browser. And I was like, oh, no, don't do that. Because if you just tried going to Canvas as a separate website, for whatever reason, it won't let you log in. So you have to click on Canvas from this portal so that it remembers that you're logged in with LBC. So once you're right here in one of your classes, you see all of the classes displayed right here as Dr. McClinton walked us through, and you can click on really any of the classes where you need to submit something. And of course, we know that each assignment, it has different submission requirements. So if you click in now, I won't be able to actually submit anything from week 2, but I know that in week 2, we have some things that are discussion forums and some things that are just reflections where you're just thinking about it. And so you always want to pay attention, as Hannah will talk about a little bit too, with the instructions, what you're actually being required to do. Are you being required to submit a Word document, just a text box? What are you actually being asked to do? So I'm going to take you into one of the classes that I teach. And you'll notice that this one is set up just a little bit differently than yours is, because it's an in-person class. And so I'm going to go into current week. And for this assignment right here, they need to submit a Word document. So I'm going to view this as a student. And you'll notice the big beautiful button that says start assignment. That's a good sign that we are in the right place for assignment submission, that there is a box that says start assignment. So I'm going to click on that. And you'll notice that there is a space for us to upload a file. Now, in order for us to upload a file, we need to create a file. So we'll need to figure out where we're going to do that. And as a student at LBC, you are given automatic access to the entire Microsoft suite. And so if you go back into the LBC student portal, you'll notice right next to Canvas is the Microsoft Online link. Now, I'm not going to actually click on this because I already have my email open with everything, all of this, all personal emails hidden. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And what you'll see is that this is what will open up whenever you actually click on that link. And what you're going to be looking for is Microsoft Word. Now, over here on the left-hand side are all of the different apps that we have access to. So you've got Mail, Calendar, etc. And you're going to keep on going down. Now, some of you will have Microsoft Word as an app that displays on the side. Some of you won't. If you don't, then you're just going to click on More Apps. Click on that. And then you'll notice that there are a whole bunch more. Sometimes you may need PowerPoint. That's how you access PowerPoint. But we're going to go ahead and go to Word directly. That'll open in a new tab. And depending on what you've done in Word previously, it may show you, hey, here are some recent files, etc. But we're going to go ahead and create a blank document. Now, as Dr. McClinton just shared, we have a whole bunch of resources that are available for you that help walk you through the MLA formatting and things like that. So I'm not going to spend any time sort of walking through that because those resources are out there. What I do just briefly want to mention is that every assignment that you submit that's in a Word document, often your professor will want it to adhere to either MLA or APA standards, depending on what kind of class you're in. And so it's a good practice to get into the habit of using those early. I will just briefly go ahead and set this up. So as if I was a student, and of course it didn't autocorrect. Why wouldn't it autocorrect? And then whatever the due date is. Now, whenever you're setting this up, if you're trying to fix the spacing, I like to highlight everything. And then inside the home menu for with Microsoft Word Online, you're going to click on the ... And then change the paragraph spacing right here. Or the line spacing. Can't see, my Zoom screen's in the way. Oh no. Line spacing. And whenever you're working on line spacing, you want it to be set to 2.0. And you don't want to have any extra space before or after. So if it has space there, you see how it has space after, we want to remove space after. So now it's just double spaced, and that's over in the home menu. Something else that you may need to take a look at is you may need to look inside the header space. And so whenever you're working with a header, I change menus. So all of these things at the top are different menus. So right here, that was inside the home menu. I need to go to the insert menu to get a page number. So in case you're like, I don't know how to access that space, it's in the insert menu and you'll click on this page numbers toward the right-hand side. And that's how you get access to your header space. One other thing that I'll say is that inside that space, you have insert and then the page break. And that's how you get a separate page break for your works cited page, just tips and tricks for the back pocket. Now, once you have everything set up, you have your assignment all typed up, and Hannah's going to spend a little bit additional time talking about, okay, well, how do we know exactly what to put into our paper? You want to make sure that you have your file saved, because there is nothing worse. There is nothing worse than starting something and then realizing that either it deleted or that you just don't know where it is and you can't find it. So whenever you're creating a document, I always name my documents right away. So right now, you'll notice that it's saving to OneDrive, and I can tell because it has that little cloud right there, and it has the green check mark. That means it's auto-saving. That's great, but what is it titled? Well, it's titled just based on the first thing that I wrote, which was my name. And I don't want that to be the name. So I want the name to be something else. I usually like to name it after the assignment itself. So this is grammar, practice positive language. Look at that. And notice that I can tell what location it's saving to. That's great. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter to save the name. Now, it's possible that whenever you're saving to your OneDrive folders that you may, like things may not be lining up and you're like, I don't know where this is saving to, and you need to save it to a different location or save a copy of it to make sure that you can access it for upload. So if you need to do that, I go to File, and then you can either just save it to a different spot, so move the file, or like I said, sometimes you may just want to create a copy downloaded, because let's be real, Canvas every once in a while is a little bit of a jerk and it will distort your formatting, moving from online to Canvas. And so I actually will encourage my students, if they're having problems with the formatting, to download a copy of their assignment, make sure the downloaded copy looks good, and then to upload to Canvas from the download. It's a little bit of an obnoxious set of steps, but it does tend to work. So now I know that this file is not in OneDrive, but it's actually going to be in my download. So I have it in 2 places. So that's important to remember. So now that I have my file, I know where it is. I'm going to go back to the assignment, and I'm going to choose a file to upload. Click. Wait for it to decide that it wants to work. Now, if you look at my screen, you'll notice something that is a little bit contradictory. So it says downloads here, but then the OneDrive is highlighted over here. You always want to pay attention to what's at the top of your screen. This is just accidentally highlighted. This doesn't matter. If I wanted to change the folder, I would need to actually click on the OneDrive over here on the left, and now see how it's shifted to Mariah in my LBC OneDrive account. But you see as well, is that grammar assignment there? No, it's not. So where did it save to? Who knows? Maybe it might have saved to my personal OneDrive folder. No idea. I'd have to check it down later. But where do I know that I saved it to? My downloads. That's right. So I'm going to go to the downloads, and there it is. And so I'll select the document, and then this is a little bit tricky depending on what type of computer you have or what system you have. It may not say upload, it may say open. Open's the right one to select. You're not opening the document, you're opening it to Canvas or something like that. So I'll click on that, and then this is critical. Critical. Make sure you hit submit and wait for the confetti storm. But wait. Confetti storm! And once the confetti storm happens, then you can rest in peace that your assignment has been submitted. Now, one final trick that I will throw your way before turning it over to Hannah. If you're concerned that maybe you didn't submit the right thing, or you want to make sure that it's displaying correctly, I've actually had students submit completely blank files before, and they're like, I promise that it wasn't like that. I'm like, well, that's what I see. So if you want to check, you can click on submission details. And then you can click on view feedback. Now, this is actually the same thing that you would click on if you were viewing your professor's feedback, but you can take a look at it even before your professor has feedback, and you can see, oh, this is what it looks like. Great. And what I might say is, oh, I kept that blue formatting. I thought that would go away once I saved it. I'll have to go back in, open it, edit it, and then resubmit it. And so that's a good check that you can have just to make sure that everything got uploaded a-okay. And that's Canvas to Word and back again. A tale of not hobbits, but LBC students with Mariah. Any questions before I turn it over to Hannah?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So why would you work on the online version if you have to download it anyway? Why wouldn't you just work on your computer, on your version that's on your computer?
Great question. So if I'm working on the downloaded copy that's on my computer, it may not be auto-saving. And I forget to save like all the
Okay.
I forget to save all the time. And then my computer inevitably crashes because I have approximately 70 tabs open and 50 documents open. And so to me, I like saving to OneDrive. Now you can, if you're working on a computer where you're using the Microsoft Word app, and it's not just the Word online, you can have it so that it's working on something that's on your computer, but it's still, if it's saving to OneDrive, it's still maybe distorted. I don't know why. It's because, again, Canvas is a little bit picky and doesn't like us. So if you're noticing a trend where you're seeing that whenever you upload it to Canvas from your OneDrive, that something's distorting. Like I will frequently have students, their first paragraphs will be missing their paragraph indent, and they're like, Professor B, I promise it's there, and it is on their end, but it just doesn't, for whatever reason, something gets crazy in transmission. So I would only do that extra step if you notice when you check that there's a formatting issue.
Okay.
Great question. Any other questions?
Nope.
All right, over to you, Hannah.
Thank you, Mariah. So I'm going to share my screen and we are going to talk about developing our papers from the prompt all the way to the paper, the whole process. Of course, we're not going to be able to cover the entire writing process tonight, but I'm hoping through the next few minutes together that we're able to walk through the process overview and equip you with tools and ideas for effectively tackling the many different types of assignments that you'll encounter in the online space in your classes here at LBC. So without further ado, I wanted to open it up with a little bit of an icebreaker. How many of you, us, myself included, have received an assignment, read the prompt, and felt overwhelmed about where to begin and what to do? I will include myself in that. It can be a really unnerving process to get the syllabus, open up your class at the beginning of the term, and see everything that's expected of you in the next 8 weeks. And what we're going to do tonight is walk through how we can best understand and unpack those prompts into manageable steps so that those major assignments actually don't seem quite so overwhelming. So, for starters, we need to talk about our why. Why is it important to understand prompts in the first place? Why can't I just write a paper and turn it in and be done? Well, because sometimes we can just jump into writing a paper and it might have been an essay in which we're supposed to compare and contrast ideas that we've read about in our course textbook, but we just go in and write a reflection about how we felt about it. That's not what our professor asked us to do. So we want to make sure that we are understanding the assignment expectations so that we can complete them accurately and gain particular knowledge and skills as a result. So each assignment is intentionally situated in your course. It's not just busy work. It's not just thrown in there. It's to equip you and sharpen your skills and your writing abilities in different ways towards the aims of that course. So in the syllabus, it's really easy to skip over that section that's called student learning outcomes, but that's really helpful when you're looking to understand, why do I have to write this paper? Why am I doing this thing? Well, it's all part of creating those learning outcomes. By the end of the course, you're being equipped with new skills and new abilities that are outlined there. So those are helpful to consult. So as a foundation, we all know and have experienced that writing is an integral part of college. It's foundational. It's a huge part of learning and understanding and processing through information. It's also a conversation. So we don't just write in a vacuum. It's not just us and the computer and our professor. It's so much larger than that. Whenever we're writing about any topic, we are entering into an existing conversation on that topic. So there are scholars and authors and researchers who have dedicated their lives to various topics. And so when we talk about a theological topic or a topic in science or philosophy, or any academic discipline, we are entering into a conversation that other people have pioneered, that other people have published works in. And so we want to go into that conversation informed. So we want to know what else has been said about this subject. I'm going to do some research through the library, through the databases that Dr. McClinton showed us earlier, to better understand what's been said about this topic. What are the key definitions that I should be aware of when talking about this topic? Who are the major scholars and researchers in this academic field? And what can I learn from them when I'm seeking to write about this topic? And at the end of the day, we really want to focus on organization, focus, and clarity. So we want to make sure that in our writing, we're staying organized, we're staying focused on the prompt, and that we are being clear. So it's tempting in the college space to feel the pressure to sound academic and use big words. But really, we want to focus on clarity. We want to say what we mean. We want to be clear. We don't want to just use a really big word just because we think it sounds good. If it's the fitting word, then we should use it. But we shouldn't feel like we need to throw in a bunch of words from the thesaurus if we don't really know what they mean. So we want to make sure that we are focusing on clarity. And as a central foundational element of college writing, we always want to make sure that the entirety of our papers explain and expound on our thesis statement, which is the main claim of our paper. We want to think of the thesis statement as the backbone, the blueprint, and the roadmap. So it provides the support and the structure for the rest of the paper. Without it, everything kind of falls apart. It provides the blueprint of how the different pieces of the paper fit together. So it's not just we have paragraph 1 over here, paragraph 2 over here, paragraph 3, and then we get to our conclusion some point and it's all disjointed. We want to make sure that we have set out clearly in our introduction what we're going to prove, how we're going to prove it, and what support we're going to use to support our claim. So, and then finally, one of my personal favorite analogies is that the thesis statement is a roadmap. So if we look at this nice picture over here, we have a roadmap. In our paper, we're taking a road trip. Now, you don't go on a road trip unless you know how you're getting from point A to point B. You want to save on gas and tolls as much as possible. So when you're doing that, you want to know the thesis statement lays out, okay, we are going from point A to point B to point C to point D. And then your body paragraphs are kind of like these push pins. So once you get there, you can dig deep and unpack it further. But the thesis statement provides an overview of this is where we're going, it's how we're going to get there. And then when we get there in our body paragraphs, we build up and expound on our points with research, with proper rhetoric and argumentation. But the thesis statement provides structure, clarity, and direction. And as we've been alluding to throughout our time together, our general paper structure, just so we're all clear on that, we begin with an introduction, which provides an overview of the topic. It also includes our thesis statement. Then the body of the paper is our collection of body paragraphs that support and expound on the thesis statement. And depending on the paper length or the word count requirement of your paper, there's going to be a varied number of body paragraphs. So in college, we move beyond just the 5-paragraph essay that many of you may be familiar with. In many of your LBC classes, you're going to be writing papers with many paragraphs, a lot more than just 5. And then once we have fully developed our argument with sufficient evidence and detail, then we end with our conclusion, in which we synthesize and restate our thesis and really answer the so what significance. I think so many people kind of get to the conclusion and then just want to run away, but it's really important to explain why is everything that you just developed and unpacked relevant and important. So you want to explain the significance of your paper. So we don't have time tonight, unfortunately, to dive deeply into each one of these stages. But just so you know, when it comes to writing your paper, there is a planning stage in which you want to initially take time to free write and do some preliminary research, get your ideas on paper, jot down just whatever comes to mind. I think it can be really intimidating to feel like we need to open up a document and just write our paper. We want to take time to just jot down ideas, see where our free writing exercises take us. And then from there, once we have some thoughts and ideas on paper, then we begin organizing and saying, okay, based on the flow of my argument, this makes sense earlier on in the paper. This I'll get to later. We begin organizing an outline in which we use different outline structures. There's several different ones in Word. A lot of them involve Roman numerals and letters, and it's really helpful to plan out what's going to go in each paragraph of the paper. Once you have that structure, you'll move into actually drafting your paper. So you're writing a rough draft. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want to develop your ideas in complete sentences and full paragraphs with proper citations. And then we revise our content, make sure that everything that we're saying fits together as a unified whole. And then finally, we edit and revise our grammar, punctuation, and mechanics. So that is a very high level overview of the writing process. So when it comes to our writing process, we want to read and reread the prompt, review the syllabus, those student learning outcomes that we talked about earlier, and any additional assignment information included in the syllabus. And this is huge. Reach out to your professor with any questions as soon as possible. Don't wait until 8 p.m. when the paper's due at 11:59. It's really important to reach out to your professor as soon as possible and ask questions to get clarity to then direct how you complete that assignment. When we're reading the prompt, we want to identify the active verbs. What does this assignment require? Are we informing our audience? Are we relating ideas together? Are we providing some sort of interpretation? Each one of these words is going to ask you to do something slightly different. So you want to be really clear on, am I explaining something? Am I applying a principle, a theory, or a concept? Am I evaluating, assessing the effectiveness or the value? All of those things are different. So it's important to be really clear on what it is your professor is asking of you. And then, of course, we want to identify and read the specific material needed for the assignment. So it can be really easy. I meet with students sometimes that are really overwhelmed by assignment instructions, but they haven't done the reading that's going to inform them for that assignment. So it's really helpful to, if you're supposed to read sections in your textbook, read those sections, watch any lecture videos, and then proceed. Of course, it's good to preview the assignment so you know what's coming, but if you feel overwhelmed, it's likely because you haven't engaged with the material that's going to inform your assignment submission. And then take note of the length and structure requirements. This one's really key. A 2-page paper is very different than a 10-page paper. The level of depth and research and time is going to vary considerably depending on the length requirements, and keep that in mind. We also want to check on what kind of writing is acceptable. So in a lot of college level academic papers, you're going to want to avoid personal pronouns such as I, me, my, and also second person pronouns as well, you, your, yours. We don't want to be talking about ourselves in our academic writing, and we don't want to be making assumptions about our reader by directly addressing them. However, there are exceptions. There are going to be times where you have particular reflection assignments in which your professor is asking, what do you think about this? How does this apply to your life? In those cases, you're encouraged and supposed to use those personal pronouns. So just be aware of what the parameters are with each assignment. And again, as we talked earlier, we always want to make clarity our primary goal, and we will use proper spelling, grammar, and punctuation no matter the assignment. When in doubt, Check the syllabus because the syllabus provides descriptions for major writing assignments and details regarding the grading scale and weight of the assignment. So you also want to be aware if a paper is worth 30% of your grade, then you're going to want to spend a considerable amount of time working on that paper and not procrastinate. Whereas some smaller assignments might collectively only be 10% of your grade. So if you feel discouraged because maybe you didn't get the grade you wanted on a particular writing assignment that's a little bit smaller, you can take heart knowing that it might only be a very small percentage of your overall course grade. We just talked about the page length, and then we are here to help. You have so many support structures in place to help you, support you, encourage you, build you up as you go throughout your college journey. So reach out to your professor first and foremost if you have any questions about assignment expectations. But then if you want help actually working through your research, writing, outlining, drafting, revising process, we are here as the Ally Center to support you. We have our writing services, which include all stages of the writing process. So some students feel like they can't make an Ally Center appointment until they have their thoughts on paper. That's not a requirement. You can come and we can brainstorm together and talk through your ideas. The academic mentoring services will help you with time management, academic success strategies, those sorts of things that are really essential, especially for adult learners who are balancing full-time jobs, caretaking, just a lot of different responsibilities. And then we also have ESL services as well at the Ally Center. So thank you so much. This is just a brief overview of the writing process. If you have, if you'd like to discuss this further, feel free to book a one-on-one session. But now I'll open up to any questions that anyone has. Any questions? Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much, and back to Dr. McClinton.
You're muted, Dr. McClinton.
So this ends our Navigating Online Well series. There were just two. The first one took place last week. This is the second week. And again, there will be a video of this recording as there was a video of last week. So if you'd like one of each of those, we can certainly get those to you. But again, we do workshops. As I said, the N.O.W. is kind of a newer workshop that we put in there because a lot of students were going online that had currently been face to face. And then oftentimes you'll have students who just are kind of like biting their nails as they come in terms of how do I navigate online. So it serves that purpose as well. But as each has explained, the Ally Center is here to support you. They really are allies because the goal is whatever God has placed inside of you, the goal is to get it out and get it out on paper. So if you have no further questions, I'd like one of the team members to close us out in prayer.
Right. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you, God, for this opportunity to gather together tonight. I thank you, Lord, for your wisdom and your kindness and just the gifts that you've given us in learning and just the tools that we reviewed tonight. I thank you for the ability to gather through Zoom, even though we're all in different locations. And I just pray, Lord, that you would just bless each student here and who are eventually viewing the recording. I just thank you, Lord, for bringing them to LBC. And I pray, Lord, that you would strengthen them and help them as they seek to honor you in their studies. And we love you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. And so I'm going to stop the video